Auguro a tutti voi amici piloti italiani della Audi 90 GTO IMSA in bocca al lupo per il campionato Kamel GT. Fatevi onore, date gas e tenete alto l'onore della mia Audi Racing preferita di sempre, l'Audi 90 IMSA GTO. Ciao e in bocca al lupo, tenete giù.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
Daytona has long been a familiar track in the Camel Series, but as one would expect, they typically run the same road course that the Rolex 24 races on. This year's introduction of the new NASCAR road layout offered up an opportunity, and the drivers have elected to try it out. How much will this new chicane change up the nature of the beast? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 4 of the iRacing Kamel GT Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The new layout won't mean too much new familiarization for fans and drivers, but just in case there are those who have yet to experience the road version of this famous oval, let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. They see a little bit more during the daytime as we're going to be racing at night here. But Adam, I mean, usually we wouldn't think that just a couple corners would change the dynamic too much. So will we see a different type of race today?
Yes and no. I mean, Daytona International Speedway is known for its draft packs and close racing, and we can expect the same here today as the Camel Series tackles the new NASCAR road layout. This 3.56 mile, 5.7 kilometer, 14 turn layout adds an extra chicane to the regular road course before the dogleg and finish line, making the run down to turn 1 cut in half. This means a bit more of a complex course, but is no less technical. With these old machines, every tight turn and curved braking zone of this circuit presents a challenge of skill and feel. Both the Audi and the Nissan will excel at this track, but that can tend to make the better drivers a bit frustrated, as the draft effect in both classes will be substantial. But outbrake yourself into one corner and you'll find yourself out of that 1.2 second window in the Audi and 1.5 second window in the Nissan for the draft and falling back fast. Traffic could be your saving grace, though, as a well-timed lapper could bring you back up to your quarry or assist them in slipping away. Add to that a wide gap of experience levels, some tight championship battles, and an hour-long race with a pit stop, and you have a recipe for extreme drama today.
And this is going to be a little bit longer than normal. We'll get to that in a bit. So a lot of new things that the drivers will have to be aware of. Now, taking a look at the standings, we have Fabian Gerber leading the way ahead of JB Hall after his miserable race that he had over at Snetterton. Nick Mukanos currently a bit of a distant third this early in the season. Sai Andra trying to climb back upwards. Another one that didn't have the best of days, but kind of made good of it based on other people's woes to get him into fourth in the points. And then Krejcik and Olsen are tied with the fifth position. What about the GTO standings here, Adam?
Yeah, if you want to know where the drama is, it's right here. Michael Houghton and Phil Lake are tied for first position up there, and the only thing separating them is one pole in the benefit of Phil Lake. So very tight stuff for these drivers up at the top of the leaderboard. Second's going to go to Hugo Leskala, third to Franco Scurry, third to Hugo Leskala, fourth to Franco Scurry. Fifth is Michael Haynes, who moved up over Roman Pavlowski, who you see there in the bottom of your sheet at the moment. Michael Haynes just being a little bit more consistent than Roman and putting in those times to get himself back onto the top of the standings. But those top three, I mean, look how tight they are. Separated only by 5 points, Joe.
Now, if you are just tuning in for the first time for the Kamel GT series, here's our race details and what you're going to get to see. The big thing to notice is that it is a 60-minute race. This is their endurance format, essentially. And the reason that's important is because that introduces pit stops. And on a draft track, well, that'll be a big talking point. It is open setup in these series. Drivers are allowed to tweak them as they would in real life. And there are no fast repairs, meaning they have no spare car. If you get damaged, you have to take some time in that pit stop or, well, make an extra stop if you're really unfortunate to try and get that repaired. There you see the penalties that they can accrue if they get too many off tracks or contacts with one another out there on the track. Before we get to the qualifying, just want to remind you, if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below if you want to see how to get your company on air here on GSRC. Right now, Tobias Gerber holds the provisional pole for the GTPs, while Phil Lake, no surprise here, looks to have the provisional pole in the GTOs, and Fabian just took the top spot away there in the prototypes.
An interesting thing to note in the GTO Championship right now, Phil Lake and Michael Houghton seem to be even on pace here at this course throughout practice and the practice race they did yesterday. I mean, actually, it went official, but the non-broadcast race they did yesterday. So look for those two drivers to be nose to tail throughout this entire race. Reed Miller also was very fast, keeping pace with both Phil and Michael in that test race yesterday. So look for him to be up there battling for the lead as well. This might be his first opportunity to really get a win in this series. And he goes to the pole, the provisional pole right there. So there's your evidence for you.
Okay then, Reed Miller, but look at how tight it is between himself and the others. There is less than a tenth of a second between himself to fourth place right now. So Lake, Houghton, Leskala are all vying very hotly for that top spot here in qualifying. Now, we keep talking about the draft. That could make it less of an issue where you start, as long as you can stay with that front group. This is Ardo Iamaki, who's yet to set a time. And that was his second lap, actually. So he finally gets one on the board, and it's only good enough for 8th place. Let's take a look at Leskala, see if he can climb from 4th, because, well, there's not a lot of a difference between himself and that top spot.
Yeah, hopefully he's able to put in a decent time, and he does a 1:45.787. That is good enough for provisional pole. Phil Lake comes across the line now, and he's going to set a time that puts him in 2nd place. It's going to be a tight 4-way battle for that lead position in the GTOs.
Houghton comes across the line. It's a 46.3. That's not good enough, but it will get him into 3rd. Franco Scurry up to 4th. And what about Reed Miller? He was temporarily up on the pole position, He's coming around NASCAR 3 and 4 right now. Love to watch and see exactly what it's going to be like for one of these GTOs to tackle this last chicane. Those curbs are incredibly tall. Looks like he misses the first apex and the second apex. Oh no! Wow. Well,
that's what it's like if you miss it.
So I was, kind of wondering if I should ask if they are going to be a big danger, and my question has been answered without having to ask it in the first place. Roman Pavlovsky down to the line for his second timed lap. Is he going to be any better? Yeah, avoids those curbs as the number 15 drives it to the timing line. 48.6 becomes a 47.1. That actually puts him into 6th place.
Yeah, Joe, even if you don't go airborne there, as we watch Jamie Hall trying to improve his position currently in 3rd, even if you don't go airborne over those curbs, hitting them is very likely to damage your aerodynamics coming out of that corner. So it's one of those things where you just want to avoid them at all costs.
And he's not happy with his second lap, so he's going to practice his pit entry. Jamie Hall getting everything he can out of the session with a Checkered, has a surprisingly slow qualifying for his first lap. Oh, he takes a lot of curb, and that's going to spin him out, so this definitely won't be faster. And that is it for Checkered's qualifying.
John Key crosses the line with a 141.101, good enough for 13th position, improvement of 3 seconds over his first lap, so clearly a little bit of trouble on his first lap. Ernesto Romero will be the next to cross the line with a 146.871. That's going to be good enough for 6th position, so a great qualifying for Ernesto that time around.
But Cy Andra was able to put it in 4th in the prototypes, and he was a major factor last season, so he's a bit shocked, judging by his reaction to the rest of the field. And they're qualifying. So let's go through our starting order, starting with the prototypes. And of course, Matthias Hovdahl, who we keep repeating this over and over, but for some reason, these draft tracks suit him so well. And he's on the pole here today, as Fabian Gerber will be starting behind him, and Jamie Hall will be starting in P3. Cy Andra, good enough for 4th with Martin Krejcik. Great qualifying for him, up to P5. Outside of that row is Tobias Gerber in 6th. Nicholas Schneider, good enough for 7th with Alex Ellis in P8. That's a name we haven't heard in a while here. Nick Mukano starts 9th, and Alex Millward rounds out your top 10. Artie Iamaki, as we said, a poor qualifying for the Finn, starting in 11th. Laust Olsen in P12, and John Keefe in 13th. The outside of row 7, it's Jacob Leon. Ove Checkered failed to set a second qualifying time, so he'll stay in 15th. Sintez Galindo, 16th. Robanek in 17th, and Koivisto in P18. Had a number of drivers who failed to put times in. Marks, Lang, Porter, Funderburg, and Furkan will all start at the back of their class.
Yuko Lesko is going to start off on pole for the Audis with Phil Lake lining up alongside him. Michael Houghton is going to line up in the 3rd spot with Frank Scurry in 4th. Reed Miller is going to line up in 5th, but he's looking very quick on pace today with Ernesto Romero in 6th position. Roman Pavlovsky is going to line up in 7th with Ben Laughter in 8th. Yuri Giesen's going to line up in the 9th position with Devin Donne in the 10th spot. Michael Haynes in 11th. Pascal Lier starting off in 12th. Carlos Fonseca 13th. Pablo Rangel starting off in the 14th position. That's going to round out your 37-car field today.
Adam, put yourself in one of these cars up at the top in the front group once they start to break away. Do you attempt to try and save fuel to get an edge in the pit stops, or do you think it won't be worth it without as much of a run from the bus stop to the first corner this time?
I mean, if I'm not feeling like the guy ahead of me has the potential to break away, absolutely I'm going to save fuel. I'm going to sit around and wait until after the pit stop to make my move, because especially around here, every braking zone is a risk. Every passing zone is a major risk. Another thing to note is that the Audis will be taking this lap fairly slow because they do not want to get caught starting in the middle of that final chicane. So they're going to be trying to back this up in through 3 and 4 to make sure they don't start in that chicane and get themselves all twisted out of shape at the first lap.
Hopefully we don't have anybody who suffers what Reed Miller did on his qualifying as they try to navigate that at the start, as the Porsche pace car is going to take our prototypes through that chicane. So is Hovdahl going to wait, or is he going to go pretty much as soon as possible? He's already got a little bit of an edge as it looks like Gerber's backed off a little bit. Now he's going to be able to pull up. Hovdahl waits. He waits. Green flag is out. It's a decent start for him over Gerber. A little bit checked up behind them with Hall and Andra. In fact, it looks like Hall's going to look to the inside as they try to break down into the first corner, way around the outside. Who is that? I think that's Ellis trying to make up some spots, but it doesn't work out in the end. Otherwise, we're clean for the prototypes. Let's go to the GTOs.
Looks like somebody blew an engine in the prototypes ahead of him, but the Audis seem to be going pretty well right now. But Phil Lake losing tons of positions on the start. Yuka Leskola with a great launch. Michael Houghton up to second place. Franco Scurry third. Reed Miller fourth. Phil Lake all the way back down to fifth position.
Not the way that he wanted to kick things off here, as it looks like they are relatively good in our GTOs. Let's head back up to our second place battle in the prototypes as we have an accident behind them. I see a couple cars off.
Nick McConnell and Alex Marks.
And it looks like Millward involved in that one too. We'll get back to that a little bit later. Gerber dropping off of Hovdahl early. Not what he wants when he probably will hope to get back into the slipstream. He's still got 8/10 up to P1. Is Hall going to try and push the issue down into the bus stop for the first time? It doesn't appear to be the case, as he is going to stay put, and they swing it into the chicane.
Tons of intense racing right now through both classes. Look at this, side by side for some of the GTPs through the bus stop chicane. Everyone's able to manage to get through fairly cleanly there. Good job from all of them. The Audis, on the other hand, are going to be a little bit more contested. Franco Scurry trying to hold on to that third position is going to blow the bus stop chicane. He's going to have a slowdown that he's going to try and take on the exit of the curve. That's going to slow up some of the GTOs as they almost go 3 wide out of the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, that would be the fight with Mukanos getting involved in Romero and Pawlowski back there. You could see them in the background trying to settle out 6th position up into the chicane, and it looks like Mukanos is just going to have to sit and wait as he tries to get by both Lake and Miller, who are fighting for third.
Yeah, Mukanos is trying to figure out a way by, but he can't right now. Reed Miller is way off to the outside. Phil Lake way off to the inside. I think they're trying to let him go, but they just split the track a little bit. Nick decided to be a little bit more cautious and not go through, but that's going to really hurt Phil Lake as far as trying to keep up with Reed Miller in this battle.
Absolutely frustrating for Nick here. And now I think he should be able to finish getting by at least these two, but he's got Houghton and Leskola to go before he is fully clear of that GTO pack.
Another day of bad luck for Nick McConos, Joe. I mean, last week was a similar situation, so this one already starting off poor, and with the draft being such an effect, he's going to be way back there for most of this race.
Well, it is an enduro, so he's got a little bit more time to make it up. Leskola currently is our leader by about 7/10 of a second over Houghton. Those two have their own little breakaway in the GTO class. So you can see him up in front in the number 7. And Mukanos is going to have to maybe send it a little bit. And I think he's got it. Now he is fully clear, leaving Leskola alone.
Yeah, he can make that pass pretty easily under the braking as long as he is able to get around to the rear quarter panel, so able to do it. But P8 and the GTP is getting pretty intense here between a lot of these GTP drivers.
Yeah, that's Keefe and Schneider, and Keefe looking around the outside as he tries to break the long way around. He might actually have this if he can gut it off the corner. They're going to bang wheels a little bit. Schneider's not going to let him have it as he stays put in P7. And then they've got Tobias Gerber closing in along with Iamaki on his climb through.
Yeah, this was all started back in the bus stop chicane when Tobias Gerber actually blew the entry because he was trying to make a pass on Martin Kraytrick, actually, who's ahead of them. Pardon me. And Nicholas Snyder and John Keefe tried to go by, but Tobias rejoining the track held them both up, and now they're in this 4-way fight for the top 7.
In fact, I think it might be having more people join in because you got Laust Olsen and Sintez Guindo along with Jacob Leon. It's becoming quite a train here just behind the likes of Schneider, who gets a great exit onto the oval and pulls away. He's towing Keefe along with him. So now it is Gerber who is at the front of the group.
Very intense stuff from all these GTPs, and they haven't even caught up to the lap GTOs yet. as we see, I believe that's Arno Yamaki looking to the inside of Tobias Gerber there on the entrance, and oh, Laust Olsen very nearly blows the corner, but look at them side by side on the exit of the bus stop chicane. They almost bang doors as they go through 3 and 4. Let's see how they're going to hold off on the chicane.
With chicken. And Gerber's got the inside of the first part, but the outside of the first real apex here as they come down into it. Almost gets in. He does get into the back of Iamaki, and he's going to have to cut the course as Iamaki slams into that barrier.
Iamaki's out, but there's a battle up ahead of them between John Keefe and Nicholas Schneider. They're side by side as they head into turns 1 and 2. Looks like Nicholas Schneider's going to outbreak John Keefe there and try and make it all the way through.
It's a hunch, but the way that last time Schneider pulled away here in the infield and the way that Keefe catches him on the oval, I think Keefe's got the lower downforce.
That's probably a good assumption right now, but I don't know how much it's going to help Nicholas Schneider having that higher downforce throughout here, but the GTO lead is very close still. Michael Houghton keeping track of Yuko Leskala. Phil Lake doing an excellent job of trying to regain that 3 seconds that he lost due to traffic.
Lake still trying to push hard. He's towing along Romero behind him in P4 in that class. So he could have a friend to make it a 4-way fight if he can catch up to the back of Houghton as we ride on board with Leskala. Looking back at Michael, 3 wins apiece for 1 win apiece, for 3 different winners so far in this season. Could we see a 4th? If we do, it's looking like Romero will have to be the one to do it.
Now, if it looks extremely dark on your screens, that's because these Audis were never installed with headlights or taillight. Well, they do have taillights per regulation, but they were never installed with headlights, at least with this specific model of the Audi. Now, look, Michael Houghton did gain in the draft, but he's deciding to stay behind Yuko. Yuko has a tendency to be very aggressive on passing, especially at these draft tracks. And Michael Houghton, as long as he can keep tabs with Yuko, I don't think he's got any sort of inclination to try and get by unless Phil Lake starts to close significantly.
I kind of sit with you on that camp, where if I was Houghton, I'd say, all right, let's just wait patient, see what I can do. Now, he's not riding in the draft here, interestingly. He keeps pulling out as
and that's because he's going for a different line into the chicane. It looks like it's pulling out of the draft to 3 and 4, but that's actually setting up for the very complex braking that goes into the chicane. It's extremely difficult. It's even harder in the NASCAR machines, believe it or not. But Michael Houghton and Yuko Leskala take different lines through that chicane on the entry.
I absolutely believe it, because I'm the one that had to drive that lap that's on our track guide. It was difficult to say the least, as I think Laust Olsen had a problem in the Western Horseshoe.
Yeah, this was a single car incident. He just outbraked himself through the Western Horseshoe going into that turn. Easy enough to do if you miss your braking zone by a couple of feet.
Sends him down to 14th, sadly. And Tobias Gerber, remember we mentioned him cutting the course. He fell down to 9th. Just an update on him after starting farther up. Looking at our top group, it is a 3-car pack up at the front. Hovdal, Gerber, and Hall. Cy Andra has lost touch a little bit back there in 4th. That's not good news for him. But for Gerber, Hovdal, and Hall, of course, they are going to try and continue to stretch that 2.6 seconds bigger.
Yeah, and they're definitely doing it. These 3 drivers up front are on a whole nother level. I mean, it's impressive to see Hovdal being this quick around this track, where he's struggled in some of our other tracks. So this seems to be one that he has a knowledge of to a different level, a different degree than Fabian and Jamie. And Cy Andra. Cy Andra seeming to struggle a little bit on pace. He was inquiring as to how the guys found the extra speed around here, but I'll have to keep my eyes on what these leaders are doing and what Cy's doing to see where the difference is.
His exclamation, his words were, "What did you guys have for breakfast?" So clearly some disbelief from him. As we jump back to Giesen and Roman Pavlowski, they are fighting for the 6th position here. 7th position, I believe.
No, they're actually fighting for 6th. Up ahead of them is Franco Scurry. He currently is in the 5th position, and these 3 have been swapping positions since the race began. You can see the different line from Roman Pavlovsky, an extremely wide line. He's actually got front left damage, as you can see right there. That might be affecting his drive a little bit since these are 4-wheel drive cars. And the drive is so sensitive in these machines. You can see how much it's affecting his drive because he can't get the brakes down quite as effectively. Seems like he only has three-wheel braking right now on the right front and the rear.
And that was costly. Off into the distance goes Giesen. Still trying to see if he can get past Franco Scurry there in P5. Should have the slipstream coming onto the oval. The question is that going to be enough? Yeah, it probably should be. I would imagine Pawlowski able to regain it once they get here onto the banking.
Yeah, he'll definitely still have the draft, but the question is how much speed damage does he have on that machine in Roman Pawlowski? The 21 there of Yuri is doing quite well, but Joe, Phil Lake is up to those leaders, and he closed that 2.5 second gap like it was nothing.
Ooh. Bad news for both Houghton and Leskala, especially now that he's third in the train. He can save fuel even more just sitting behind these two as they punch a hole in the air. And if I know Phil Lake, he understands the long game in this series as they all once again swing it into the chicane, the NASCAR chicane, and back into the tri-oval portion. So far, so good amongst these three.
Wow. Sorry, Joe, but I'm just watching the attitude of the cars and the difference between Michael Houghton and Phil Lake. Phil, so smooth on all of his inputs into this machine. Michael Houghton seems to be wrestling the car a little bit, and he's talked about in races past struggling with tire wear, and that might be part of the reason why, but he's really starting to... It really shows when you watch both Phil and Michael side by side.
All come through the kink there in the infield, down into the western horseshoe, deep on the brakes for Phil Lake into that right-hander. So he gains a lot of time there, and that is something I'm sure he'll be tucking away in the back of his head for later in the race. We have lost a few people. We mentioned Iamaki with his wreck. He's been taking repairs. I assume he intends to come back out. Marks, Porter, and Funderburg. Looks like they maybe were a DNS today, potentially, as I'm not sure. It's not seeing laps on the board for them. Oh, and here's a look. Well, Houghton, he is not feeling safe with the likes of Phil Lake behind him and decides he's going to dispose of Leskala with the draft. He's up to P1 for the first time this race.
That is exactly right. You put your championship contender with a car between the two of you and hope that Jukka Leskala ends up being a better barrier than you can be to that championship contender. Michael Houghton having to make that move to try and be as defensive as possible for this points championship lead. Remember, whoever finishes ahead of the other driver today will walk out of this race with the championship lead.
Absolutely. It is so tight amongst these three specifically. Fascinating that Franco Scurry as well is still sitting in that fifth spot. He's fourth in the points. This is a driver who's come back swinging after a brief time away due to some health concerns. Glad to see that he has not lost his edge at all. You can see behind him the fight between Giesen and Pawlowski has picked up once again.
Yeah, these two drivers definitely fighting hard. Giesen was right up to the back of Franco Scurry as they went into the bus stop chicane the last time around. The chicane after 4 is a little bit of what separated them. Yuri just got onto the curbing just a little bit, but Roman is trying to regain that time that he lost, now breaking himself into the International Horseshoe, and he's managed to do so.
Glad he hasn't lost the fight here, so we continue on with a 3-car tussle to try and sort out a top 5 position. They split up a little bit here in the end. Let's head over though, because we got a battle in 10th place for the prototypes as Sintez Guindo and Alex Millward, unusually low for him, starting down in this position, is threatening into turn 1. Can't quite make anything happen there, but tries to gun it off the corner, see if he can get something later.
And we haven't talked a lot about Alex Millward this season. His pace just hasn't been there like it has been in past seasons. And it might be due to that new tire model. I'm just not sure where the lack of comfortability is. Maybe he's not practicing as much as he was before. But they're definitely, whereas he was competing for wins and top 3s in the past, it seems like he's struggling to get up to that podium now.
Could be that we know he runs in the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. Maybe he's kind of turning his attention there as he was vying for a championship Oh, as he's very wide through turn 6, all the way over the rumble strip. That loses him a whole chunk of time, and Jacob Leon just behind him is starting to gain because of that.
Yeah, keeping our eyes on these GTPs. Things getting very intense for most of these drivers. As the race goes on, we're at about a quarter of a way through the race at this point, so your track position's pretty well sorted at this point in the race. So now you got to start thinking about when are you going to take that pit stop and what factors are going to play into that. Are you looking at track position? Are you getting held up by traffic? Our leaders in the GTPs haven't really encountered the traffic quite yet.
Well, it may not be the best strategy, but if I was one of these drivers, especially up at the front, I would assume it'd be wait as long as possible to make some of your stops.
Also, Joe, this is a very throttle-heavy track. You're on the throttle a good 70 to 75% of the time around this track. And what that ends up doing for you is it makes your pit stop very long on fuel, which gives all of these cars an opportunity to grab tires, even the GTOs. So expect everyone to be grabbing tires this time around, or this time when they come to the pit road.
Hofdahl now 2 seconds ahead of Gerber, and Gerber dropping Hall as well. They've caught some of the traffic. That could have had an influence on it, but whatever the case, Hofdahl is getting himself out of reach of those who were just a few moments ago right on top of him.
Yeah, the traffic will definitely play a factor, and remember, 1.5 seconds is about the gap for the draft effect. You get a little bit around 1.5 to 1.2 in the GTPs, and then from about 1.2 forward, you get really good draft effect. And it looks like Hofdahl, Gerber, and Hall are all separated by just enough to make the draft effect ineffective. Jamie Hall's just now clinging to the back of Gerber's draft.
Back to our leaders in the GTOs, which is still much closer. A bigger hole in the air from these boxy little GTO cars. Houghton leading the way for Leskala, who has not tried to reclaim it from what we've seen so far. Lake still behind them and giving watch.
Yeah, I think Leskala has been putting a bit of pressure on Houghton, as looks like Nicholas Schneider's in the pits, so he's taking an early pit stop, an interesting fact. But it looks like Leskala has been putting pressure on Houghton just a little bit, but that pressure is upsetting his lines a little bit, which is giving Houghton a good run off of the corners. Phil Lake doesn't seem interested in trying to pass either driver at this point in the race. He's just been backing off when he's had the opportunities to get runs.
And they are also coming up to lap traffic within their own class. That's Pascal Laer just in front of them in the number 37. He looks to be significantly damaged on his nose too, so I wonder if they're going to catch him quickly on the oval portions.
They might catch him through the chicane, which could be a real hazard here. We'll see how Michael Houghton handles this.
Yeah, he's getting right up to him. He's looking to the inside, but there's nothing there as he sticks to his line. And that, a big checkup as they exit the corner. And Leskala, unfortunately, does not get the run he needs. Lake sneaks by into second. Are they going to be able to get through? Yes, Pascal lifts before turn 1.
Phil Lake read that situation perfectly, but Yuka Leskala trying to make a dive up to turn 1. Can't quite do it there. That was some close stuff between the two of them, but Phil Lake reading that situation perfectly. He saw that they were going to get held up there, and he expected somebody to get held up enough that he could get a good run off of the chicane, and makes it work.
Done there by the number 1 machine. So he's looking for another championship. Oh, and I think we had a problem with John Keefe. He's very slow.
Quite a few drivers had some trouble with the bus stop there, it looks like.
This is a replay of Keefe. Looks like, well, he's back after the bus stop. I think he maybe spun it coming out of there. Let's see.
Oh, yes, he did. He clipped that grass on the exit and ends up spinning. He manages to keep it out of the wall, but him rejoining starts to cause some trouble for the rest of his GTP compatriots.
Commentator's Curse is reading our minds, because I was just looking at him and noticing that he went from his 13th starting position up to, I think it was about 7th or so. And well,
lead in the GTOs is happening right now. Phil Lake is trying to make a pass on Michael Houghton into the bus stop chicane, is able to get it done. Houghton tried to outbrake him on the outside of the corner, couldn't quite do it though. Phil Lake, an excellent pass there.
Lake going from third to first. Let's take another look at this one. He just gets himself a nice shot off of turn 6. Here's the replay, and you can see the power of the slipstream on his Dirty Torque teammate. He's easily around the outside and through.
Now, Phil knows that he has pace on these guys, considering the fact that he closed that 2.5-second gap. He could pull away from these guys. He could break the draft if he has the opportunity. He might just try and win this on raw pace alone. It's going to be hard to do at a draft track like Daytona, but if there's any time to do it, now's the time.
See, when are they going to be caught? Actually, the leader's coming up soon, so they're going to have the prototypes lapping them. I'm going to say that that's probably going to be Lake's best opportunity. Use that as a sort of pick, maybe.
It's definitely going to be Lake's best opportunity as we keep our eyes on all of these battles that are going on. The lead in the GTP is getting very tight as well. Well, actually broke up because of a couple of lap cars, but man.
Nice battle between Sintez Guindo and Olsen. As Laus currently in 9th, trying to poke himself up into 8th. And how about this? Remember Mucanos trying to come back through? Mucanos already up to P10.
Yeah, it's not where he'd want to be. He's 34 seconds off of the lead, but he's definitely got an opportunity to get himself a top 5 if he fights hard enough. It's going to be tough going for him, but he's got some time to do it.
Still, I mean, he was behind a good 8 cars that he's already overtaken. What a job. In just the first 20 minutes, essentially. I think he could be looking at maybe a top 5 if he hustles hard. Let's see what he's got on this group as they come out of the Western Horseshoe. He does have Alex Millward behind him as well. Getting some information from the Peanut Gallery that they believe Millward did not put much practice in this week, and that's why he seems to be lacking pace as they both swing all the way up to the outside wall coming onto the oval.
Yeah, it's going to be tight between these 3 drivers unless traffic breaks them up. It's nearly impossible to break away from that draft. I know it's definitely a thing that is possible. They're coming up on Carlos Fonseca right now. They should be able to pass him easily on the exit of the chicane here, but Nick Racanos with much better braking. Lost Olsen a little bit loose on the exit of the corner. Nick's going to try and move here around the outside. It might be 3 wide as we head into the chicane.
That's Fonseca, who's going to stay low for them. Still, it's going to be another game of chicken on the brakes, and Laus Olsen is deep into the corner, too deep, maybe. Almost got into the back of Sintez Guindo, and look at the shot off of it. What a move by Mucanos to see that coming.
Holy smokes, and Millward makes a pass as well, coming out of absolutely nowhere to try and make the pass there as well.
We have another scheduled stoppers. Martin Krejcik is now in his stall. Or is it? I'm seeing smoke coming from his car, potentially.
I believe that was brake smoke. He did roll all the way down pit lane. I'll keep my eyes out.
We stay with this fight, working down through the International Horseshoe. Mucanos has gotten by 1. Now he's got to catch back up to Sintez Guindo in front of them. It's a big gap from that side-by-side racing through the chicane. 1.7 seconds. You were talking to me about this, Adam, that trying to fight door-to-door through there seems to be incredibly costly.
Yeah, it was incredibly costly. Laus Olsen losing so much time through there. We're going to jump up to the GTO leaders because they're still tight. Jukka Leskala right up on the back of Michael Houghton as they come into the chicane, and they've got Matthias Hovdal, our leader, packed in behind them.
And Hovdal's getting really held up here. He's lost a ton of time to Gerber. It's down to 1 second. So this could be Fabian's chance to regain the slipstream and get into the mix. As we ride on board, you can see how aggressive is he going to be into turn 1.
Matthias Hovdal's losing out here around the outside. He couldn't get the traction down. Jukka Leskala has to back off and let him through the S's selection. And now into the International Horseshoe. Fabian Gerber is right there. Oh boy, Michael Houghton with a big lockup. That's going to hold up Hovdal even further. Man, these GTPs are getting held up by these leaders in the GTOs.
Boy, Leskala is a long ways back now. Hovdal checks up, and there goes Fabian Gerber around the outside, finding an opening. If he can get the throttle down, find the traction, he might have this one done. But still, he's being challenged by Hovdahl. Finally, under braking at a 6, he lets him go.
This is the uniqueness of the Kamel series, just how complicated it is to deal with the traffic around here. But look at this, all 3 of our GTP leaders now line abreast as they continue to go through, line astern rather, as they continue to weave through these Audi GTO leaders.
Well, looked like he was thinking about it maybe, but now he's backed out as they finally get by the lead in that slower class. Phil Lake letting them through, and Jamie Hall is mighty on the brakes. He does not want to lose this opportunity to stick with him, but he's poor off the exit of the bus stop chicane.
Too mighty on the brakes there. He lost a bunch of time. He's still within that draft gap, but he's going to have some time to make up. On the other side of it, Michael Houghton and Phil Lake have broken away from Jukka Leskila due to the traffic, and they're now starting to pull a gap of about a second. It's not enough to break the draft quite yet, but we still have Cy Andra and Alex Ellis to cut through this pack as well.
Very true. So as our drivers get mixed up and jumbled amongst one another, Houghton maybe thinking about the outside. He's going to go for it. He tries to outbrake his teammate, Phil Lake, holding it down tight. And he's going to be able to hold it with that 4-wheel drive, launching him off of turn 1.
That might have more been a defense against Cy Andra, trying to gain more time on Jukka Leskila, but now Cy's going to take away the apex and almost run into Michael Houghton. This is going to back him up significantly as they exit the corner. Michael Houghton has to back off even further because Cy Andra rather couldn't get the exit off the corner that he wanted. Phil Lake taking his line. Cy Andra getting blocked up behind him. Cy's not going to be happy about that one, but Phil has to take that line as the Audi, otherwise he's going to wreck.
And this could have been a great opportunity for Cy to start to catch on the leaders, but seems to be doing the reverse for him. I'm half watching this and half watching Hovdahl, who's still hovering at about 0.3 of a second behind Gerber. So that could erupt at any moment. As finally, Andre's able to get by the last of the GTO leaders. No change up in the lead in the prototypes. Hovdahl decided to back out.
Man, I knew that traffic was going to play a large factor in these lead battles, but I didn't realize just how big of a factor it was going to play, especially for these GTPs. Hovdahl losing the lead due to traffic. He had a lead of almost 2 seconds at one point that he's lost due to traffic. Fabian Gerber cutting through the traffic with just a ton of experience in these machines. And Jamie Hall, the new, well, not new, but the new for this season driver in the GTP, trying to cling to the back of these 2 fast drivers up ahead.
Struggled once again in one of the chicanes, and that was down through the NASCAR chicane this time. He's got to hustle or else he might lose touch. So down to just about half the race left to go. We've seen a small handful of drivers try an early stop strategy. Otherwise, it seems most are waiting long, as this battle for 7th has Sintez Guindo being challenged by Mukanos with traffic in front of them. Mukanos tries to set himself up, takes a little bit of curb, but I think he got away with it. Didn't quite manage to make the overtake as 2 cars behind them head in. Millward and Olsen take their scheduled stop.
Here comes Mukanos. He's going to try and outbrake him up the inside. Can't quite do so. Guindo with a great braking on the outside of the corner. This is Pablo Rangel up ahead of them that they're going to be trying to pass and see where the Rangel ends up holding up Guindo. Guindo's going to look to the inside here. He flashes the lights at Pablo Rangel. Rangel's going to just swap him over here and get a good exit. They should both be fine on the exit here.
It occurred to me that the GTOs don't have the pleasure of trying to flash their lights when they're displeased with the other classes. Mukanos discovers his own displeasure trying to overtake Rangel. Just cannot manage to do it without losing time through the kink and the Western Horseshoe. And now he's got to regain all that time lost up to Sintez Guindo.
And he's got to worry about John Keefe, who's tucked in about 0.8 of a second behind him as well. So he's now got more company still from and a pass for second place in the GTOs is happening right now. Michael Houghton, looks like Jukka Leskila got an opportunity, and Michael Houghton's going to try and cut him off as they head into the final chicane.
Not going to be able to make it. And as this is happening, Matthias Hovdahl is elected to come in from second place in for his scheduled stop. So
interesting one.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to have any draft help is the real concern here with this pit stop.
When he was on his own, he had all kinds of pace. So this might actually be a good call, because if he can find himself clear track and get better luck with the traffic, Maybe he can pull away. So
Fioli finally rolls. Let's see whether or not he comes out into a gap here. I think he's going to come out into traffic, though, Joe.
I think you're right. And he's going to be just ahead, maybe, of Tobias Gerber. He's going to sneak ahead of him, but he's stuck behind Franco Scurry, at least for the time being. Oh, and the tires just don't want to give him the grip that he tries to ask of them as they come out of the International Horseshoe, spinning them up directly after the pit stop.
So remember what I said about Phil Lake on raw pace being able to break the draft? He has done that. He is now 2.5 seconds ahead of Michael Houghton and Yuko Leskola. So on raw pace, Phil Lake has broken that draft, and now it's up to these two to battle for that second position or to try and just get up there on raw pace up to Phil Lake. I really don't think they're going to be able to do that unless they work together.
I don't know what it is that Phil Lake has discovered that everybody else has yet to figure out. But last season and now this season as well, when it comes to just lapping around the track, Lake is the master. Just incredible pace in that number one machine as we watch Leskola stick with Michael Houghton, now having to settle for a battle for P2. Do either of them potentially maybe try to come in for a stop here, break it up in exactly two halves? Nope, they're going to stay out.
Michael Houghton looking like he needs some new tires. I mean, he is getting extremely loose on the exit of these corners. I mean, a four-wheel drive car, that's not that easy to do. Yuko Leskola looking around the outside. I think Michael Houghton might need to come in for fresh tires sooner than later. But what that does is it means you end up driving around with more fuel for more of the time, so your tires wear out faster. It's really a toss-up as far as what the benefit's going to be, but if you're losing so much time on track, I don't know, it's going to be tough. Franco Scurry's in for his scheduled pit stop as well. We've already seen Reed Miller come in for his scheduled pit stop in the GTOs, as well as Yuri Giesen.
Going up to 8th place in the prototypes. Mukanos is by Sintez Guindo, but now John Keefe is on the back of Aitor, just making it a bit of a tough day for him. We look out through the 007 cam. Keefe showing his nose down into the western horseshoe, but doesn't make an attempt.
Yeah, Keefe doing a good job of trying to hold on to these positions. He's gained quite a bit. He's started off at 13th spot, up to 9th now, trying to make another pass here on Aitor. Aitor very wide on the exit of the infield. This might give an opportunity to John Keefe when they come down to the bus stop chicane.
Have a whole lot of slipstream. Oh, and look at that. He's going to stay high. Sintez Guindo just handed it over at this point. I don't think he wants to fight that one too hard.
We'll see. He's still staying alongside as they head into the braking zone. He's going to try and outbrake John Keefe in here. He is just a little bit, but he finally lets John Keefe go.
So John Keefe back up to 8th now. What a yo-yo of a race it's been for this number 27. Remember, he started 13th. He got all the way up to about 7th. Now he's back up to 8th once again.
Phil Lake and Yuko Leskola into the pits from the lead of the GTOs.
But Houghton stays out.
All right, interesting. All right,
both of them taking tires, too.
Yep, up onto the decks, exactly as I predicted. The GTOs are going to be taking tires around here because you have plenty of time. You'll see when they come down off the jacks, they're not going to go for another good 10 plus seconds. That's how much fuel they need around here to go.
This is not looking good for Houghton on his call to stay out, as that was lap traffic from Fonseca, and now Hovdal is trying to come through. So is Hovdal going to also cost him some time, or is he going to play patient? Hovdal can't sit around because he's trying to pull the same sort of alternate strategy to those around him. He's going to be able to pass so they won't hold each other up here on the oval.
Yeah, but Houghton, the damage already might be done. He's going to have to get a draft here off of Hovdal if he can, to try and make this as effective as possible. Phil Lake
leaders in. Sorry, leaders in the prototypes are both in. Gerber and Hall swing it down to the lane, but Cy Andra is going to stay out. Where is Hovdal now? He's coming out of the bus stop. This is Andra on screen.
Hovdal spent about 40 seconds in the pits. These guys are already on 20 seconds. Jamie Hall looks like he missed his box a little bit, so that's going to be tough for him. But Matthias Hovdal now coming through the final chicane. Where are the leaders going to come out in respect for them?
Still in his stall. Hovdahl coming past the line.
Wow.
Oh, a long one for Gerber. Oh, it's much longer. It is about 2 seconds longer than what Hovdahl, 1 second longer than Hovdahl, 2 seconds longer than Jamie Hall. So despite Hall missing his stall, he is able to stick with Fabian. But it is Hovdahl who came out the best with a 4-second gap right now.
And here's the weird thing. Hovdahl and Fabian Gerber's pit stop time, like their actual in-box time, is nearly identical, but their pit lane delta is 4 seconds different. So Hovdahl maximizing his pit entry and exit to get that extra gap.
So lap time since Hovdahl's pit, a 39.1, which is his fastest lap of the race, and a 41.3. Fabian Gerber looking at a 40.6 and a 40.9. So that fast lap. Oh, and Jamie Hall's had problems. Sorry, Jamie Hall just went into the barrier coming through turn 6.
Yeah, this is gonna... Oh, boy. It's not
the rear.
It doesn't look... I mean, that could be suspension damage. It could be powertrain damage. It could be nothing, Joe. I mean, it's going to be luck of the draw here with Jamie. We're going to go on board with him, but just on these cold tires, one of the things we haven't talked about is this new tire model takes some time to warm up. On these cold tires, he just locks it up.
Something went wrong. He's
he's
gone.
Out. He's out. Oh boy.
It says he's manually disconnected, so I wonder if he got a meatball flag. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. Nick Nakano's into pit lane for his pit stop. Michael Houghton has come into his come in for his pit stop. He's come out still within the draft of Yuko Leskala. That's very close. Yuko still about 2.5 seconds behind Phil Lake after the pit stops as well. But here's this battle between Reed Miller and Ernesto Romero. Reed trying to recover from a horrible race start that he had. He's alongside now.
How good is he on the brakes? Very good. Unless Romero let him have that one. It looks like Reed Miller is on a charge. That's going to move him up to P5. Driver we haven't mentioned. The next one up the road from Reed, easy to say, is Donahue, and 4th, 15 seconds ahead of him.
And this may be why we haven't mentioned him. He has yet to take his pit stop, so he's going to be in here for about 45 seconds. That will put him probably around last in class, unfortunately.
So that explains it then. So Miller actually up to 4th with that move. Now, what about Cy Andra, who still is yet to pit? He stays out. Alex Ellis does as well. Hovdahl is inherited 3rd, but he's already done with his stop, and we believe he will be our leader unless Andra just has some incredible laps here with this long run strategy.
Yeah, the pit stops are definitely being the deciding factor here, but remember, the race isn't over yet. Here comes Syandra past this battle between Ernesto and Reed that's still going on. Ernesto's not going to want to just give a bunch of time up to Cy, so Cy's going to have to be assertive here on the brakes, and he is going to get right in between these guys on exit. The Audi will be better on exit, but Cy, yeah, there it is. It holds up Ernesto just a little bit, and there you go. There you see Cy just creating a little bit more of a gap between Reed and Ernesto, and Reed's going to let Ernesto go, and Reed's going to let the Cy go by at a more opportune time for him.
Fascinating that we're seeing so many different strategies. I guess I'm so used to some other series where there's kind of just one way to go, and most everybody tends to follow that. Seems like a lot of drivers are willing to take a risk, take a gamble out here today.
Absolutely. So Syandra is going to come towards the start-finish line. We'll see whether he takes his pit stop this time by. Just under 22 minutes to go in this race. Just a note, Matthias Hovdahl came out of the pit, Fabian Gerber came out of the pits about 4 seconds behind Matthias Hovdahl. That's been cut down to 2 seconds. So Fabian Gerber closing in on Matthias Hovdahl for provisional lead of this race. Cy's going to go around and lead another lap, though, and Alex Ellis is going to stay out as well.
Let's take a look at Fabian. Currently sitting in 4th. Again, we think a net 2nd. Ooh, and
oh boy.
Well, he's just going to get out of the way. That is Ben Laughter. Or he missed, either that or he missed his braking point. Oh, and there was a car off. That's Roman Pawlowski. That was one of our front runners in the GTOs. He spun the car coming out of the NASCAR chicane. I think he managed to avoid hitting anything.
And here's just how challenging that chicane is. It's a curved braking zone. What that ends up doing is it ends up making it so difficult to get the speed woe down, and he just came out of there with too much speed. He was going to hit the outside wall, just cranks the wheel to the left, and spins out instead. A good save from Roman.
Yeah, the drift made it look more like the rally version of this Quattro, but that sends down the order. This is for position with Rangel as they come through the infield. Pablo been getting a little bit of screen time today. Probably not how he wants it to here as he locks it up a little bit down to the Western Horseshoe.
Easy enough to do in these machines, lock up those tires. It looks like Pablo has the brake bias pretty well set in for that machine, but man, Roman is struggling a little bit on brakes still. That front left tire not braking for him as much as he would like, and it's definitely affected him both in that incident that we just saw and right there coming out of the infield.
See the damage on the front of that yellow machine. Still no pit stop for Cy Andre. What is it, about maybe 45 minutes, the max they can go here in the Nissans?
It depends on how much fuel saving he's done. I mean, on raw, if you're just out there alone, yeah, about 45 minutes. But wow, here comes Roman with a great opportunity. It's gonna be 3 wide as they come off the corner.
Keefe going by the high side. Pawlowski. All right. Last time he had all kinds of problems with his chicane. Can he take it 2 wide? That seems like a tall ask. Yes, he can, because Rangel's just going to let him have it.
Yeah, and Roman with a much better chicane that time by. Very quick through there, actually. Quite impressive, to be honest. He carried a ton of speed through that chicane. He's going to come out much better than Pablo at the end of that and almost have a second gap by the time they get into the braking for the infield.
Go back up to Fabian Gerber because he's now got it down to 1.1 seconds. He's within the slipstream of Hovdal. This is impressive. It makes me wonder if Fabian maybe was holding back a little bit on that first stint.
Either he was holding back or he's just gotten a little bit more used to the car track combination here. As we see Yuri a little bit loose off of the corner. Fabian a little bit loose himself. He's going to lose a little bit of time to Hovdal up there, but he's got plenty of time to make this up. He's got 18 minutes left to try and catch up to Hovdal, as Cy Andre and Alex Ellis still have yet to pit.
The only ones we should mention, John Keefe, Trangarade, those two are the other two. It looks like Ryan Lang has yet to come in for a stop. So 5 different prototypes are running long. Every one of our GTO drivers have come in and out, though.
Speaking of GTOs, Yuko Leskala has closed the gap to Phil Lake to under half a second. That raw pace that Phil had before seems to have gone away. Yuko Leskala putting the pressure on for the lead of this race. He's now definitely within the draft pack. He's going to have an opportunity to challenge here, but look for him to wait for quite a while. He's probably going to wait till the last couple laps of this race to try and make a move, because he's going to expect that Phil's going to be able to make a move on him at the end of the race as well.
About to get a little bit more complicated because Cy Andre is starting to close and looking to lap them once again. So not only is it going to be a battle for the lead, but they're going to have to deal with a faster GTP who really doesn't want to slow down here because he is trying to get himself up to the leaders through strategy. As this is going on, sounds like Gerber has got it down to half a second now. Multi-time champion has been thwarted by Hovdal multiple times on tracks like this. He's trying to keep it from happening again.
Yeah, we're going to have some very intense battles for the leads of both of these classes as we close in, barring any big mistakes from these drivers. Looks like Fabian not getting the greatest exit. Ove Trangarade comes in for his pit stops, so I'm going to keep my eyes on Cy Andre and Alex Ellis here. See whether or not they come in for their pit stops. This might be the end of the line for them.
Get held up. Cy Andre, unfortunately, catching our lead battle in the GTOs at just the wrong time through the chicane. He's going to take advantage of this to come into pit right now.
He probably lost about half a second there just on that chicane. So Alex Ellis also going to come into the pit. So this looks like the end of the road for the Nissans.
All right. So as they one by one trickle in, Hovdal's actually coming up to the NASCAR chicane right now, and he himself has got Romero in front of him. Romero's trying to keep touch with Reed Miller, so I don't know how well he'll play. He is going to hold to the outside. Hovdal sneaks through. Is Gerber able to get by as we watch Andra take his tires? And both of our leaders get through, so Andra did not catch them. In fact, he almost looks farther back as now he finally gets going.
Yeah, Andra just trying to, on his recovery drive today, looks like he's going to retain that third position, though. So fortunately, he's going to come out of the pits about 10 seconds behind. Fabian Gerber trying to get an exit off the corner, but can't quite do so. You can see just the speed of that four-wheel drive Audi on the exit of those corners, how much quicker it is. Fabian's going to have to get those exits a little bit more tidied up because Hovdal seems to have that down. But I think, like you said, Joe, I think Hovdal's got higher downforce, so that's why we're seeing Fabian gain on these straightaways.
Boy, Andra's ploy did not work at all. He is 8 seconds behind these two and nowhere to be seen. Since we've lost Jamie Hall, well, it's basically now a two-horse race for the victory in the final quarter of this event. And did Ben Laughter get hit, or?
We're going to take a look at this. Oh, this starts off, this is the International Horseshoe. We're going to see it right here as they're going through turn 1. And it looks like it's just a little bit of some traffic here. That was the 26 of Devin Donaghy that ends up getting into him right here. You'll see it as they go into the braking for the International Horseshoe.
Can't see it from this angle. I believe it's a little bit of netcode, and even Devin got on the radio, said on his screen he didn't see the two of them touching. As they come out of that, Donaghy continues on. Laughter down about 2 spots from that one. That brings us back to the battle for the lead in the GTOs. Phil Lake ahead of Yuko Leskala with a monster gap over Houghton of about 5 seconds.
Yeah, 5-second gap can disappear if either of them make a mistake, though, so expect these guys to try and hang on here. They're going to, I mean, it's going to be a tight battle between these two for sure. Oh, it looks like John Keefe has had a problem. Or he's into the pits again?
It's a second stop. No. This is his first stop. I think he just went as long as possible. He's the last one to finally come in.
Very long for a GTP. Sorry, that caught me off guard.
I had to think the same thing. I was like, surely he's been in. I was like, no, he was one of those that was running long. But it's going to drop him well down the order as we continue to watch the fight for the top spot out of the bus stop with Leskala trailing the UK&I driver, Phil Lake. He'll reel him in with the slipstream. They don't have anybody behind them for quite a while, so this will be a good straight fight for another lap or two.
Yeah, I think there's just so many good battles. Let's drop us down to the 6th place battle as well for the GTPs. This is between Lars Olsen, Martin Krajcik, and Tobias Gerber. They're all tied together now as they get on to the final portion of this race. With about 12 and a half minutes to go, they're just going through the infield now. And man, they're inseparable as well.
And the car in front of them, after pit stops are already done, so this is a legitimate position, Nick Mukanos is up to 5th now. This is astonishing.
That just shows the pace that he could have had today. Just another unlucky day for Nick. I mean, his pace is incredible. He has one of the fastest laps of the race on the board. It looks like he's settled into about where he should be as far as lap times are concerned. But man, I mean, just a tough break for Nick, but a good fight back to 5th.
Allows Olsen with a great exit off of the bus stop. Oh, and Krajcik looks slow. Tobias Gerber might have a shot here, but they're going to come up to Rangel, and he might throw a wrench into things. Looking a long way around. Is he going to miss the chicane? Tobias Gerber sends it in deep. Could see an over-under for Krajcik. Oh, he spins the tires, and Krajcik is going to get to the outside. Now it's a side-by-side run down into the first corner. Tobias Gerber has the desired line. He's got a nose ahead. All he has to do is be brave and hold the grip. And I think he's got it. But once again, they come up to Rangel for the 2nd time. And this is where it gets difficult. They are now in the infield trying to overtake an Audi.
Man, if I'm Pablo Rangel, I'm sweating bullets right now. I just know these GTPs are going to take me out battling with each other. He's just trying to race his own race at this point, but he's just seemingly getting in the way of these GTPs. He finally lets Tobias go by, and Craytrink's going to slip through as well. Pablo having to break through that little kink there, but man, that was some scary stuff.
This has been happening. Fabian Gerber has closed it down to 0.2 of a second on Hovdal now. He is absolutely within striking range, and they've got more traffic in front. This is Michael Houghton, third place in the GTOs, and they also are catching him in the infield. So what does Houghton do here? Does he stay off and out of the racing line? No, he's going to take his line.
Absolutely, he's got a better exit off the International Horseshoe than the GTPs do, so that's why he took that line. You can see him start to streak away. They'll catch him before they reach the next horseshoe, and that should be a better place to pass.
Oh, but Hovdal gets held up, and we saw this. This is almost a repeat, but he covers him off this time. Hovdal learned his lesson and swings to the left to keep Gerber from getting by.
Hovdal's not going to be able to get by before they reach the exit as well, so Gerber might have a good opportunity here if he can get the traction down, but this has historically been a place of bad traction for him. Hovdal slips up a little bit, but still gets a better exit.
Get as much slipstream as he can off of the Audi and then goes around to the outside. Same thing for Fabian Gerber, looking to try and close in, see if he can attack down into the bus stop chicane. He gets to within about 2 car lengths, and he runs out of track. Wow, he's good on the brakes, though.
Oh man, he's carrying so much speed through the chicane. Oh my gosh, that was amazing stuff from Gerber to stay right tucked in behind Hovdal. He might have an opportunity on braking into this horseshoe, into the chicane if he can. He's going to look to the outside. Is he going to try and outbrake Hovdal through here?
Dahl holds the inside of the first part, but it's the outside of the second part. A little bit of a lockup. It's who can get on the throttle better out of there. They're about dead even. He's going to have the inside. Matthias Hovdal is not going to give this one up easily. As they come down into the first corner, Fabian Gerber once again trying to go as long as he can on the brakes, and there's just no grip there. And Hovdal, Mr. Super Speedway, is going to hold on to the first position.
And this has brought Cy Andre into the picture, Joe. Cy is now within half a second to these guys. This is a three-way fight for the lead. I mean, the sportsmanship, the clean racing that we're seeing from these two, it's ending up costing them time. Cy Andre now caught up to the back of them as they catch up to the slow car of Carlos Fonseca.
Can't believe that he has regained 8 seconds worth in what is a few minutes. That tells you exactly how much you were talking about of them losing time fighting. And once again, lap traffic playing a major part in the Kamel GT series. Water is wet and the sky is blue. Fabian Gerber holds second, and Cy Andre holds third, trying desperately to see if they can take the lead away from Hovdal.
And while you've been watching this, I just want to report that Yuko Lesko made a pass on Phil Lake a couple laps ago in the bus stop chicane. This battle for the GTP lead has been so intense we weren't able to catch that, but Phil Lake's still within striking distance.
Into the bus stop chicane. And actually, that's that battle right in front of them right now. So a perfect storm forming between our two battles for the lead. Hovdal's got the launch. I think he might be able to get by before they get to the chicane. He's got the speed. He's up to the high side. Leskala down low. All three of them wanting desperately to get through, and they just barely squeak by, holding up Leskala a little bit. Cy Andre has to take it too wide through there.
Phil backed off there. I think he wanted to make sure that they avoided any sort of incident. Good move from Phil Lake, good sportsmanship to just let those GTPs go through. A three-way fight for the GTP lead at the end of this race. I mean, based upon the pit stops, I wouldn't have expected that, but here we are.
Into the infield one more time. Gerber poking and prodding. He knows that an opportunity could be there if he's aggressive. They have no GTOs in front of them for a long, long time. In fact, they might not even catch any more GTOs before they get to the checkered flag here. So, is this going to be a straight fight for the win here in round 4 of the Kamel GT series?
Joe, there's nothing straight about a fight at a draft track. Everything is just mind games. It's a chess game at 200 miles an hour oftentimes at these sorts of tracks. And as we see the GTPs get back onto the banking, it's going to be a mind game as far as who's going to try and pass who here with 6.5 minutes to go.
They pick up speed. You can see already up to 170 as they aren't even off the banking yet. 180 now as they come off of NASCAR 2. 185 almost 190 miles an hour before they finally get on the binders, and Gerber pulling in closer on that slipstream. I think I would put my money on the dark horse, Andra. He knows how to play this game very, very well. He could wait for them to trip each other up and get the launch off of that last chicane to see if he can get a run to the line and overtake them both. Gerber up to the NASCAR chicane, gets right underneath the rear wing, but doesn't attempt.
I'd put my money on the seasoned veteran of Fabian Gerber. I think the guy's got the mind of steel to be able to do this and to be able to do it at the right time. He's just going to be thinking about trying to make the pass at the right moment as Andra starts to fall back a little bit from these two.
We're watching this. I took a glance while I had the opportunity back at our GTO leaders, and while it's still close, Lake looks to be struggling a little bit. Uncharacteristic for a man known for saving the tires to the end as he's slipping and sliding around. But as the GTP leaders come out of the International Horseshoe, they start to drop Andra now that we haven't seen side-by-side racing for a moment.
Yeah, I think that the lap traffic is really what got Andra into the picture, but now that they're out alone, I think it might be Sai's setup that might have a little bit of something that's causing him a disadvantage around here, because he is losing a good 0.2 per lap when they're out on clear air.
Take a look at that battle for the lead. Give some love here to our GTOs as Yuko still holds station ahead of Phil Lake. A much more shallow line there from the number 1. And they come up onto NASCAR 1 and 2. He's going to be able to pull in, but this doesn't look close enough.
Yeah, not quite close enough there as they're going to head into the chicane. Phil Lake with some great speed.
Oh, but he backs out.
Yeah, it's just not the right time, Joe. It's not the right time yet. There's still 4 minutes to go. At 130, 140 per lap, they've got the leaders ahead of them, so they're going to be on the same lap as the leaders when they've crossed the lines. Probably 2 or 3 to go this time by.
I'm almost certain that Lake is sizing him up then.
Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, you see him back off there? Yeah, you're right. You're right, Joe.
He's
saying to Yuko.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying, I got you. I can make this pass.
I mean,
you're not free.
Essentially, he's seeing how quickly he can gain in the draft and figuring out how far back he needs to be on the final lap. That's got to be frustrating and scary for Yuko, who's going to have to play a difficult game. Meanwhile, Mukana just lost out to Laust Olsen for 5th place. Did Mukanos have a problem? That was interesting.
Mukanos does have a little bit of left front damage that I didn't see before. But this looks like to be on raw pace. So as we see Nick Mukanos looking around the outside as they head towards the final chicane, Laust Olsen's going to cover him off there. But this is a tight battle as well.
Yeah, he chopped him off big time coming up into the NASCAR chicane, as we've lost Alex Millward into pit lane for some reason.
Yeah, Alex actually, he clipped. Oh, it looks like Yuko Leskola made a mistake exiting the infield here. This gives an opportunity for Phil Lake to make a pass. I'm not sure whether this is the time he wants to do it. With 2.5 minutes left, they've got Alex Ellis catching up to them at 4th place in the GTPs. He's going to go around the outside. Clean move from everybody, but Phil Lake's going to try and carry the speed through the bus stop chicane.
Is he going to take it? He's side by side. He's got the inside, and Leskola breaks early. He wants him to take it. The tables have turned. So now Leskola gets an opportunity to try and see if he can slingshot past him on the final lap, which is coming soon. We got 2 to go this time by as Hovdal just crossed the start-finish line.
There's Yuko backing up now. He's going to size up Phil Lake. I mean, both of these drivers know that the best opportunity to win this race is from second on the last lap coming out of the infield. Yuko Leskola, though, clipping the curb a little bit. That's going to back him off quite a bit from Phil Lake, but not enough to lose the draft. Under report on Alex Millward, he ended up clipping the grass a little bit through the bus stop chicane. It sent him straight into the inside wall, so unfortunately his day is done.
See that happened to him. And Hovdal, who still leads, has a gap now up to Fabian Gerber, 0.9 of a second. This does not bode well for the number 3. Has Fabian short-fueled himself a little bit? Is he maybe having to back off slightly? This is strange to see him suddenly lose pace like this.
Yeah, what's also strange is to see Nick Mukanos suddenly lose pace. He definitely has damage. Nick Mukanos dropping into the clutches of John Keefe. He's going to get past here as well. So Nick McConnell's having a bad day with some extra damage at the end of that race.
And Leskill is off of lake. 1.7
Wow.
seconds.
That's just raw pace. That was just raw pace through the infield, Joe.
Wow. All right. White flag here. I think there's a number of drivers that have messed up.
Short field.
Yeah. It has to be. This is very strange because Mukanos is dropping like a rock as well.
Yugo's clutching it. Yeah, Yugo's clutching it. Oh my goodness. So Matthias Hovdahl, as he crosses the line for the white flag lap, Yugo's clutching it into the bus stop chicane. He's short on fuel. This could give Michael Houghton second place.
Well, pit stops are not new to this series. They aren't as common as they usually only do 1 or 2 endurance races throughout the season. So, as we ride on board, it looks like a few miscalculations are costing a chance at victory. And Matthias Hovdahl seems to have mastered it over the others, as he is 1.6 seconds ahead of Fabian Gerber on the final lap. Gerber has now fallen into the clutches of Cy Andra, who could be looking at a second place.
This has been a very fast race for these drivers. They're going to go 2 laps longer than predicted by one of the leading pit crew assistant programs for iRacing. So that might be part of the reason why these guys are having trouble on fuel. And Yuko is getting passed by Michael Houghton right now, so Yuko definitely short on fuel. Michael Houghton up to second place.
Able to gain a position. What about Cy Andra on Fabian Gerber? He's within 2/10 of him. He could sneak into second place. They're nowhere near Alex Ellis, who is in 4th. So Gerber might be able, or will probably be able to stretch it to the end, depending on if he has enough as we ride on board with Cy Andra. We unfortunately probably won't be able to see this one come down to it because Hovdahl is now coming through the final chicane. And Matthias Hovdahl proves once again his mastery of these draft tracks as he wins here in Daytona. Gerber salvages a second place ahead of a charging Cy Andra into 3rd.
Phil Lake just now coming through the bus stop chicane. I think he's good on fuel. He's still been able to hold that gap out to Michael Houghton by 8 seconds. But wow, I mean, the fuel just coming into play here. The pit stops, people missing their fuel windows. Joe, what a dramatic race.
It is not just about your speed on track. It is a game that involves every stretch of racing. And Phil Lake stretches it to another victory, our first repeat winner in the Camel Series this season. Houghton will get a well-earned second place. Can Leskila actually limp it home, though?
No, he can't. Oh my goodness, he's out.
And that means Reed Miller is going to be able to get a surprise podium today. He will climb forward past him just as Leskila trundles along the apron.
Oh, it's going to be hard for him to make it to the end of this, Joe. He's coasting it. I don't think he's got anything left in the tank. But Reed Miller coming home to 3rd. Oh my goodness.
Got to be happy about that one. Reed Miller with a podium today here at Daytona. That's going to be the last of our battles on track as we take it to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around for all the upcoming races here on your screen. welcome back to Daytona International Raceway. As it looks like the NASCAR road course here for Kamel GT Series has put on a fantastic run. And Matthias Hovdahl, who took it from luck the first time, coincidence twice, and a trend the third time, has once again won on a draft track. Fabian Gerber was behind him by only 1.2 seconds, so he did make a race of it. And Cy Andra also within a second and a half of our leader at the line with third for him. Alex Ellis, a P4, was followed by Laust Olsen in fifth. By the way, climbing from 12th and then followed through by John Keefe, 13th to 6th. Both of them did a fantastic job in the mid-pack. Tobias Gerber with a 7th was followed by Krejcik in P8. Nick Lucanos wound up getting back to 9th, which was, well, actually where he started. Heitor Sintes Guindo wound out to the top 10 with Ove Traingrade, the last car on the lead lap in 11th. Coy Visto was 12th, and Ryan Lang was 13th. Then you get into the drivers that finished behind some of our GTOs, Schneider, Robinek, and Millward.
Then we have the GTOs with Phil Lake coming home with the win. Good on fuel, good on pace. Comes home with that win today. Michael Houghton getting a surprise second, with Reed Miller a surprise third. I mean, all of these drivers moving up a position. Ernesto Romero getting fourth. Franco Scurry is going to get fifth today, with Yuri Giesen coming home in sixth. Yuko Leskala, after running out of fuel on the last 2 laps, he was trying to clutch it to get there. Couldn't quite make it, coming home in 7th. Roman Pavlowski, a great fight today, recovering from hard hit on that left front that was affecting him all day, coming home in 8th. Ben Lafter in 9th. Devin Donne coming home in the 10th spot after a late pit stop. Ended up working out for him, actually. Pablo Rangel coming home in 11th spot, with Carlos Fonseca 12th, Michael Haynes 13th, and then Pascal Lier coming home in 14th position.
So that brings us to our winner here in the prototypes. Matthias Hovdahl joins us. Matthias, congratulations on the win. Tell us about what was going on with the pace, though, because we saw things kind of go back and forth where you would pull away from Fabian and then suddenly he'd catch you. And at one point he actually got by. Was that just traffic, or were you having to manage fuel, or what's going on?
Yeah, so the first time he passed me, I think it was mostly down to traffic. We caught a group of 3 fast Audis, and dealing with those in the infield when you're running a low downforce setup is really difficult. So I picked the wrong side, and he took advantage of that.
That makes so much more sense then. With the way that you seemed to pull away, we were shocked that he had managed to catch you. Still, this is, I hate to sound like another broken record, but this is another draft track that you've managed to win on. What is it about these tracks that suit you?
Again, I think it's the low downforce setups. I like a car that's on the edge and you can slide it around a bit. So yeah, that seems to be a thing for me.
Really? So we'll mark those on our calendar to make sure that we keep an eye on you as we get closer to those. Well, you've managed to put a victory on the board, and next round, well, here you go. You got another one that's up your alley. Watkins Glen Boot. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, I think it's a fun track and should be interesting. Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll see you over there in New York. And again, congratulations on a win, sir.
Thank you very much.
Guys, Hovdahl taking the top spot here today in the prototypes. Up next, we've got Adam talking to our winner in the GTOs, Phil Lake.
Yeah, Phil, a tough battle between you and Yugo Leskala for most of the race there. But talk to me about those final 2 laps when you saw Yuko starting to lose pace.
Yeah, I was just I mean, well, he caught me so quick after the pit stop. I really thought I had no chance if he passed me. I thought he was actually had enough pace to gap me, but he stayed behind, and I started to think maybe he was a little close on fuel. And then when he passed me a couple laps after, he started lifting into braking zones, and I thought he was probably saving. I was really close myself, and I think maybe the air temperature was cooler than we were expecting. So we were using a little bit more fuel, but yeah, it was a real shame to see him actually have to coast for a couple laps, because I was looking forward to the last lap fight.
And it seemed like the International Horseshoe was a place of a lot of consternation for both classes when it came to the multi-class aspect. How hard is it to wrestle with some of the GTPs through that corner?
Is that the second one, like turn 5?
That's the first one, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's tough through there because you're coming through that chicane quite quickly, and it's one of those situations where the Nissan obviously is carrying a lot more speed, and you've got to pick a side, and you don't have long to do it. So I don't think I had any issues there today, but it is one of the places you need to keep an eye out for.
Well, Phil, you had a great result today and good pace all day. What was it about? How hard are the pit stops for these Audi machines, especially with no pit limiter?
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. I always practice them a few times in the week just to get a rough breaking point to get down to the speed limit, and then it's just taking the time to have a look where your box is, which is quite difficult on iRacing actually because quali starts you at the end of pit lane, so if you don't check in the warm up or after quali, you don't actually know where your pit box is until you try and find it mid race. So it can be a challenge.
The unique challenges of iRacing on this
Yeah.
Daytona road course. Phil, thanks for talking to us and great finish today. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thanks guys.
That was Phil Lake, our first place finisher today. He will take the points championship in the GTOs as well. And Joe has caught up with Fabian Gerber.
Fabian, congratulations on a second today. But I have to ask because towards the end, you got right up with Matthias. And then the last few laps, it seemed like you dropped a little bit. Was there any fuel concerns for you?
Oh no, not at all. I had actually too much a bit, like a couple of kilos, but I just the tires were gone first of all, and there was some traffic trouble, so there I lost some, and then it was hard to make up for it. So that's why I couldn't try again. But without a mistake from Matthias, it wouldn't have been possible anyway to pass him. So it seems I tried hard. I hope you saw that, but it just wasn't a way around.
We definitely saw it. Now, with this being a pit stop race, how did you come into this one approaching the strategy? Did you have a plan on a specific lap you wanted to come in, or was this kind of read it as it comes?
Yes, I had a plan at lap 22 to 24, but I had to go earlier because I saw traffic is coming up, so I had to go earlier, and that was not the best. It wasn't what I wanted, so but I was lucky I wasn't overtaken by Jamie because we both missed our stalls, so that was bad. But yeah, that's how it goes.
All the different little things you have to practice here in this style of racing. Well, now that we've got Daytona out of the way, we've got another very, very fast one heading over to Watkins Glen. You've got the classic boot, so no chicane in there. Do you think you can try and finally pull one over on Hovdal on one of these fast tracks?
Yes, I hope he's extremely strong on these low downforce tracks. But Watkins Glen is a much higher downforce in this car. At least it's I mean like more medium downforce for the Nissan, so should be better for me. But I don't know. The chicane this time actually, I hope the race for the Audis was better. It was made for this, so. In our case, but for us it took away a good overtaking spot into turn one, so it made it more difficult for the Nissans.
Looked like passing was a bit tricky. Well, again, congratulations on a second place, and we'll talk to you in New York.
Yes, will do. See you next week.
So it's Fabian Gerber, P2. Up next, looks like Adam's caught up with Michael Houghton, who slipped himself into second.
Yeah, Michael, first off, congratulations on second place, and talk to me about how surprised you were to see Yuko slipping by on the bottom of the track in that last lap.
Man, I was hoping that both Yuko and Phil might get into some trouble, and I could, sweep by and take the win. But I was surprised that I guess he made a miscalculation with fuel. Is that right?
Yeah, he ran out of fuel in the last lap.
That's what Phil did yesterday. So I'll take it, man.
Absolutely. Well, at the beginning of the race, it looked like you and Yuko were pretty free and clear, and then Phil was able to catch back up to you, and then they started to battle and pull away. What do you think made the difference today?
Well, I had a strategy, but I kind of got ahead of myself, and I wanted to pass and get into the lead probably about about 5 seconds before the Nissans would catch up. But yeah, I did it too early and got caught in traffic, and I lost Phil and Yuko for a bit there. But yeah, that's how it happens. It's not all about speed. It's about strategy and how well it plays out.
And we just talked to Fabian Gerber about how the GTPs are going to be tackling Watkins Glen next week with no chicane and the classic boot layout. How is it in the Audis as far as the racing is concerned there?
It's not bad. It's going to understeer everywhere, but every car that I've driven there mostly understeers, especially the Cup cars. But should be fine. Nothing crazy like Snetterton. The Nissans are going to have plenty of opportunities to overtake the Audis, so I don't really see any major problems there.
Well, Michael, congratulations on second place today, and we look forward to seeing you in New York.
Thank you, guys. Yeehaw!
That was Michael Houghton, our second place finisher in the GTOs, and it looks like Joe has caught up with third place in the GTPs, Syandra.
Yep. And Cy, you seem to be a little bit surprised at the qualifying pace of those around you. Have you figured it out yet? Where others have found some time over you?
I might need to sneak a look at their setups because their low downforce setups definitely have something that I don't. I think they just might be more aggressive than mine. As you saw, like my setup wasn't all that great in the beginning of the run and the middle, but towards the end it really comes alive. But yeah, I think I just need to take a look and see what kind of secret sauce they're running.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of secret sauce, you seem to have your own little strategy on the pit stops. You went way long. Do you feel like that served you a little bit better?
Yeah, I did. My setup was kind of built for the end of the run. I knew that people would try to split it half and half with Matthias pitting just before half distance and Fabian just pitting just past half distance. I figured that if I went long enough, the fuel burn would give my car a second wind, so to speak. So with light fuel and even with worn tires, I would get back down to the times I started the stint with. And even though they had a advantage on new tires, that advantage would fall off fairly quickly and go back to running in the 40s and 41s. Well, I was still in the low 40s on low fuel. So basically my setup, my strategy just revolved around getting as long of a time on low fuel as possible.
We heard from Fabian that the chicane kind of took away one of the good passing opportunities down into turn one. Now that you've had a chance to run it, in a pack with everybody out there on course, what's your take on the NASCAR layout? Better or worse?
There's potential there, and I genuinely, like, if I had the opportunity, I would reprofile that chicane so that it was actually enjoyable. I just feel like it was designed for stock cars who can hit those curbs, and even then, even the stock cars that I saw, they can't touch those curbs either. For downforce cars like the Nissan, there's only one lane through there. And I saw Matthias and Fabian go through there side by side, and I thought that's not going to end well, and somehow they controlled it. But like Fabian said, you can't really pass.
It certainly looked like that held them up a lot because you were suddenly right on top of them. Well, again, congratulations on at least getting onto the podium today, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in a week's time.
All right, I'll see you.
That was Cy Andre, who took third, one position up from where he started. A big thank you goes out to the Kamel GT Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage here. And also want to remind you, if you want to advertise here on GSRC, check the link in the description below. We've got a little bit of a link there to figure out how you can get your company here on the air. Also, thanks to those companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. We've also got them listed on your screen, along with how to contact June Lalonde, who provides all of our music. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Includes Twitter, which is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support us, we've got a link to our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storenv.com. It's right down there in the description. And make sure and subscribe to the channel while you're down there. The next race at Watkins Glen will take place on Saturday, October 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. Make sure and check those out and mark them down on your calendar. The next one coming up today will be at the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series Nashville at 8:50 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.